Jack Nicklaus, the greatest golfer who ever lived.
Jack has always been one of my heroes.
Jack is the greatest, still can putt the same way. Nobody's ever copied it.
It was massively powerful.
He always moved the needle. It set a blueprint for how the game should be played.
Known golf enthusiast goes one-on-one off the course with a man whom many consider to be the greatest golfer of all time, Jack Nicklaus.
18 major championships, the Golden Bear, the man many call the greatest golfer who ever lived. But for years, the oldest championship in golf would not yield to him. This was not Augusta. This was not America. This was wind. This was firm earth. This was tradition older than the game itself. Jack Nicklaus had already conquered the Masters. He had already conquered the U.S. Open. But at the Open Championship, he was still searching. To be truly great, they said, you had to win here. And early in his career, Jack couldn't. This is the story of the championship that tested him, humbled him, and ultimately made him immortal. Subscribe to Behind the Game for more cinematic sports documentaries like this. Let's begin. Jack Nicklaus exploded onto the professional golf scene with a combination of power, precision, and an unshakable confidence that few had ever seen. By the early 1960s, he had already established himself as a dominant force in American golf, claiming the Masters, the U.S. Open, and the PGA Championship within less than 2 years of turning professional. In the United States, he seemed untouchable, a prodigy destined to rewrite the record books. Every tournament he entered, he was expected to win, and more often than not, he did. But when he crossed the Atlantic to compete in the British Open, Jack quickly realized that success in America did not automatically translate to the old links courses of Britain. The conditions were unlike anything he had experienced. The wind swept relentlessly across open fairways, knocking shots offline. The turf was firm and fast, punishing even the smallest miscalculations. The bunkers were deep, the greens quick, and the rough unforgiving. Here, raw power alone could not secure victory. Strategy, finesse, and patience were essential. His first taste of this challenge came at Royal Troon. Despite his extraordinary skill, he struggled, finishing far behind the established stars who had grown up on these courses. The media were quick to question whether his aggressive, high ball hitting style, so effective in America, could ever succeed in Britain. Even legends like Arnold Palmer, who had led the Open's revival with victories at Troon and Royal Birkdale, seemed to have mastered a style of play that Jack had yet to learn. The lessons were harsh but invaluable. Jack realized that to conquer the Open, he would have to adapt completely, mastering a different form of golf. His near misses at Royal Lytham and the old course at St. Andrews, where he came agonizingly close to victory, taught him humility and patience. These early failures were not just setbacks. They were an education, revealing the unique demands of links golf and testing his resolve. For the first time, Jack Nicklaus confronted doubt, not about his talent, but about whether he could truly master every facet of the game. The Open was a challenge that would push him to his limits, and it was here, in these windswept landscapes, that the seeds of his legendary determination were planted. By 1966, Jack Nicklaus had learned from his early missteps and near misses. The British Open was no longer just another tournament. It had become the ultimate test of his ability, a proving ground where talent alone would not suffice. The lessons of Royal Troon, Royal Lytham, and the old course had shaped him, teaching discipline, strategy, and the patience required to tame links golf. Yet, despite his growing skill, doubt lingered, not in himself, but in the perception of the world around him. The media questioned whether his high, powerful style of play could ever conquer the intricate demands of British courses. Muirfield, one of the oldest and most revered golf clubs in the world, became the stage for this next chapter of his journey. Jack had first set foot there as a 19-year-old, traveling with his father, Charlie, for the 1959 Walker Cup. That experience, seemingly distant at the time, would prove invaluable. He remembered the way the wind shaped every hole, how each fairway demanded precision, and how the course could reward patience as much as power. 7 years later, this memory gave him a quiet confidence that the other competitors lacked. The tournament unfolded under typical Muirfield conditions: brisk winds, fast greens, and a course that punished every lapse in judgment. Jack played with a composure and focus that came not just from skill, but from experience. He measured each shot, respected the elements, and attacked the course with the intelligence of a golfer who had truly learned from his failures. The final round was a test of nerve. Every swing mattered. Every approach carried weight. When the dust settled, Jack had secured victory by a single stroke. broke. With this win, he completed the career Grand Slam at just 26 years old, a feat achieved by only a select few in the history of golf. Yet for Jack, this victory was less about celebration and more about validation. It was the culmination of years of struggle, adaptation, and relentless dedication. In the quiet of Muirfield, he had proven to himself that he could conquer not only the courses of America, but also the oldest championship in golf. He had finally belonged on the global stage. This triumph marked the turning point in Nicklaus's career, the moment when talent, perseverance, and intelligence converged to announce that he was not just a prodigy of American golf, but a true master of the game in every corner of the world. Despite his triumph at Muirfield, Jack Nicklaus's life was shadowed by personal tragedy. In October 1969, his father, Charlie Nicklaus, was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Charlie had been the guiding force in Jack's life, the man who had nurtured his talent, instilled his values, and emphasized the importance of the majors. Just 5 months later, Charlie passed away, leaving Jack with a profound sense of loss and a quiet but consuming guilt. He felt that in relying on his natural talent and easing off his work ethic, he had let his father down. The drive and dedication that had fueled his early successes suddenly felt insufficient, and for the first time, Jack was forced to confront failure beyond the golf course. 4 months after his father's death, Jack returned to St. Andrews, the home of golf and the site where Bobby Jones had cemented his legacy decades earlier. The 1970 Open Championship represented more than just another chance at victory. It was an opportunity to honor his father's memory, to prove to himself that he could rise above grief, and to complete a personal journey that extended far beyond the leaderboard. The tournament was intense from the start, and by the final round, the pressure was palpable. Doug Sanders, an accomplished American golfer, stood on the 72nd hole with a 3-foot putt that would have claimed the championship. The crowd held its breath, expecting the routine finish, but the putt slipped, and the miss handed Jack a second chance, an opportunity born from a twist of fate and a test of his resolve. In the 18-hole playoff, Jack dominated early, demonstrating the focus, skill, and mental fortitude that had been honed through years of challenge and disappointment. Sanders fought back, narrowing the margin, but it was too little, too late. When the final putt dropped, Jack's emotions, usually so contained, finally broke through. He tossed his putter in spontaneous celebration, a rare public display of the relief, joy, and catharsis he felt after years of struggle. This victory at St. Andrews was more than another major. It was a personal redemption, a tribute to Charlie, and a testament to Jack's ability to persevere through loss and doubt. For the first time, he experienced the profound connection between golf, legacy, and personal resolve. Standing on the historic fairways, clutching the claret jug, Jack Nicklaus had not only conquered the Open Championship, he had reclaimed his own sense of purpose and proven that greatness is measured as much by resilience as by skill. By 1977, Jack Nicklaus was no longer just a rising star. He was a legend. His dominance in the 1970s had reshaped golf, and yet, even a player of his caliber faced challenges that could humble the greatest. That year, the Open Championship at Turnberry would stage one of the most unforgettable battles in golf history, later dubbed the Duel in the Sun. Opposite him stood Tom Watson, a fierce competitor whose precision and calm under pressure matched Jack's power and strategic brilliance. The stage was set for a confrontation the media had predicted and fans had longed to witness. From the opening holes, the duel was electric. Each shot was met with a counter from the other. The fairways of Turnberry, framed by crashing waves and rolling dunes, became the arena for a masterclass in golf at the highest level. Every swing carried weight. Every putt was scrutinized. Spectators, nearly 20,000 strong, followed the players over hills and sand traps, their collective energy building with every hole. As the final round approached, the tension became unbearable. Watson seized the lead with a birdie on the 15th, and just 2 holes later, he appeared to have sealed victory with a remarkable approach to the 18th green. The crowd held its breath. Most assumed the championship was over, but Jack Nicklaus, ever the master under pressure, was not finished. From a near impossible lie in deep rough, he struck a shot that seemed destined to fail, launching the ball into the air with perfect trajectory. Against all odds, it landed safely on the green, setting up a birdie putt that kept him alive. Though Watson ultimately claimed the title, the final moments were a testament to Jack's enduring greatness, his skill, determination, and mental fortitude in the face of almost certain defeat elevated him beyond mere statistics. When the players shook hands, Jack's words carried the weight of respect and humility. "I gave you my best shot." This duel was more than a loss. It was a defining moment. It demonstrated that true greatness is not only measured by victories, but also by the courage and composure to battle fiercely under pressure. In that dramatic stretch of Turnberry, Jack Nicklaus reminded the world why he was, and would remain, one of the most extraordinary golfers to ever play the game. Decades had passed since Jack Nicklaus first stepped onto the fairways of St. Andrews as a young man chasing the elusive claret jug. By 2005, he had long cemented his legacy. 3 Open Championships, a career Grand Slam, and a record that few could ever dream of matching. Yet for Jack, there was one place that had always held a unique power over him: the old course at St. Andrews, the home of golf. It was here, on these historic fairways, that he had first learned the lessons that would shape him not just as a golfer, but as a man. The 2005 Open was more than a tournament. It was a farewell. At 65, Jack knew he could no longer compete at the highest level, yet the draw of St. Andrews was irresistible. This was where he had faced the wind, the rough, and the ghosts of past near misses. This was where he had fought to honor his father, where he had achieved redemption, and where he had tested himself against the world's finest. Now, decades later, he would take his final walk across the hallowed grounds that had defined his career. Accompanied by his son, Steve, Jack crossed the Swilcan Bridge one last time. Every step was symbolic, a bridge not just across a narrow stream, but across generations of golf history. The crowd, aware that they were witnessing the end of an era, greeted him with admiration and reverence. There was no need for words. Jack's presence alone told the story of a life spent mastering the game he loved. For Jack, this farewell was deeply personal. It was about closure, gratitude, and connection. He reflected on the journey that had begun with his father's guidance, matured through struggle and triumph, and endured through decades of challenge. St. Andrews had tested him, humbled him, and ultimately crowned him, not just as a champion, but as one of golf's most respected figures. In that quiet, historic moment, Jack Nicklaus embodied the spirit of the game: resilience, dedication, and grace under pressure. The old course had been both adversary and mentor, shaping a career that had inspired generations. As he stepped off the fairway for the final time, Jack's walk home was complete, not just across the bridge, but across the story of a life lived in pursuit of greatness. It was a farewell not just to a course or a championship, but to a lifetime defined by mastery, perseverance, and love for the game. Jack Nicklaus's career was defined by victories, records, and accolades that most golfers could only dream of. 3 Open Championships, multiple Grand Slams, and decades of dominance cemented him as one of the greatest athletes in the history of sport. Yet it was not Augusta, nor the US Open, nor the PGA that truly tested him. It was the Open Championship, the links courses of Britain, that shaped his character, honed his skill, and demanded a mastery that extended beyond power and precision. The Open forced Jack to adapt, to rethink his approach, and to confront doubt. It humbled him in defeat, taught him patience in near misses, and rewarded him only when talent was married with strategy and mental fortitude. From Royal Troon to Muirfield, from St. Andrews to Turnberry, each challenge pushed him further, molding a golfer capable of greatness across every condition, every course, and every era. More than the trophies or the titles, it was the Open that tested his resilience, defined his legacy, and connected him to the game's deepest traditions. Standing on the fairways of St. Andrews, crossing the Swilcan Bridge, he was not just a champion. He was the embodiment of what it means to persevere, to honor the game, and to rise above every obstacle. Jack Nicklaus conquered golf. He dominated America. He inspired the world. But at St. Andrews, he found something more profound. Here, at the home of golf, he discovered himself. If you enjoyed this story and want to watch more incredible golf documentaries, make sure to check out the playlist on your screen right now.